Next Generation Meteorologist Joe Shock here with the tropical update for September 12th, 2022. And we have a couple of areas of interest that we're going to be looking at today. Well, really, the main area of interest is going to be what the Hurricane Center now has at 40 west, probably about 11 north. This other one here, if it develops at all, it will be staying out and probably not becoming too strong. But today, we'll be looking at this area as this is piquing a lot of my attention. And I have been on this since Saturday, and really even this past Friday, the 10th and 9th, as it was pretty prominent within the guidance and is continuing to be prominent. So let's take a look at the MJO and the European. Mainly in the null phase, going to try to come out into the phases 801, I guess. We've not had a lot of success with the MJO coming out into any of these phases. And that is something that certainly will probably be researched, or I will do some digging and see what exactly is going on, why the MJO is not really being activated, but it certainly is activated within its null phase, but no tropical forcing really anywhere. That's been the case for quite some time. And you can see the GFS has more amplitude mainly in the phases 8 and 1 towards the middle and end of the month. Again, those are the ensemble members. So you can see the model itself really tries to bring it out then back in. So even if it does come out in any particular phase, it will likely be a short-lived phase, and that is a very interesting situation of why the MJO doesn't want to come out. But if it does, either phase 8 or 1 or 2 and 3, you can see the area of interest is particularly phase 2 and 3, the Caribbean and the East Coast, Gulf of Mexico. Phase 8 and 1, the Western Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and again, along the East Coast, a little bit inland here, these, and then this is not perfect for every single storm, but in most cases, how the MJO favors tropical development, but you can see what those charts look like there. Now, let's take a look here at the ocean temperature anomalies, and you can see they are quite warm, a continuation of the very warm waters in the North Atlantic. Here's the cool swath relative to average from Earl. The MDR above normal, the subtropics here warming up to around normal. So this is very, very favorable. And there's the classic La Nina signature, maybe a little bit of an Atlantic Nino here. And La Nina, Nino-ish. I know definitely last year was very, very warm down here just above the equator, just to north of the equator. And that was certainly an Atlantic Nino. And La Nina, it was kind of cool earlier. Now it's maybe going back towards Atlantic Nino. So we'll have to see. Again, the MDR shuts down as we get towards the latter half of the month of September. And our attention will mainly focus west of 60 west for development as we go into the month of October. But again, you can see quite warm relative to average. Actual ocean temperatures look like this. Upper 20s C, which we're talking, let me see here, upper 20s C would probably, let me think here, 84 to 87, 88 degrees Fahrenheit, 28 to 30 C, and some of the higher res analysis, even you can see it pretty nicely here on this particular color by that last shading of red, just here along some of the bigger islands of the Bahamas, maybe in some 31, 32 C, some upper 80s, if not even 90 degrees, and some isolated pockets here in the Caribbean. So very, very warm water here in the Bahamas itself. And of course, the 80-degree line, the 26 Celsius line, roughly from the Outer Banks up here and then slowly working its way across the North Atlantic and then looping back around just to the north of the Cape Verde or Cabo Verde Islands. But overall, you can see the Western Atlantic well into the 80s, plenty of fuel to support powerful tropical cyclones over the next couple of months. Upward motion pattern from the JMA, you can see the somewhat upward motion here in the blue. I call it the upward motion pattern. I guess you could, if you're in the Pacific, you call it the downward motion pattern, but it's the vertical velocity at 200 millibars. The blue is rising air. The yellow and oranges are where air is sinking, warming, and drying. The blue is air that's rising, and that is cooling. When you rise air, it cools and condenses and is a little bit more moist overall. Obviously, here's the precipitation with Earl going out. You can kind of see the somewhat of the signal there in the MDR coming into the Caribbean. This is, by the way, for this week that's currently ongoing. And there's the trough over the southeastern part of the United States. Week 2, you can see the pattern is a little bit less with the strong upper motion, but you can still see the enhancement of rain in the Caribbean. And there's the somewhat of a ridge, which I do expect this Thursday to be much stronger, given there's going to be quite a big heat event going on in the northeastern part and the Great Lakes. There's going to be a big ridge that's going to be coming into this part of the country, and that will help lower the pressures in the Caribbean as well. And also at the surface, this weekend, we have this before the warm-up next week, we got this big surface high coming across. So what that high is going to do with that clockwise flow around that high is then it's going to pile up air on the back side of it in the Southwest Atlantic, and I think that's going to help this wave that's coming across now, which you saw in the beginning of the video, that yellow area of 20-30% is going to help pile up air. That is going to help converge this tropical wave that I think gets in there towards this weekend and early next week. And with that ridge going up, that I think will seal the deal on this thing developing, at least becoming a named storm. Now, here's the European showing it quite nicely with the 1,003 millibar low here. Now, we'll have to exactly see how this goes, but the upper level pattern at this time is anticyclonic, and that means there's air being pulled out of a system, and you'll see that here in the next couple of slides. And again, here's that 500 millibar I was talking about. You can see that valid next Thursday, the big ridge over the northeastern part of the United States, days 7 through 10. This is valid itself at day 10, but certainly middle and end of next week, there'll be this large-scale ridging. And again, here's a tropical feature coming through the Caribbean and slowly begin to make its turn more off the northwest here as time goes on. And here is the anticyclonic flow. You can see there's the surface low there. You can see these arrows like it's pretty much what an anticyclonic cyclone is. It's a high pressure at 200 millibars, and you can see that here in the nice wind streams. You can see that nice clockwise ventilation. There's the surface low, so as air is coming together at the surface, it's being diverged aloft, which helps these things grow vertically in the atmosphere. So if this kind of pattern evolves, we'll have to see obviously the dry air and stuff, but this could certainly be a situation where you see a storm rapidly intensify towards the middle and end of next week, whether it's in the Caribbean or in the Gulf of Mexico, as long as it's not over land and the islands, or if this doesn't come through the islands and gets shreds apart. This thing is a notable trackable feature by the weekend and early next week, and this anticyclonic pattern is in place. I have very high confidence that this thing should wrap up rather quickly, given the background state of the pattern. Here are the European ensembles. Next Monday, you can see quite a spread as usual. The stronger ones further north and east, the weaker ones further south and west. And again, we'll have to see what kind of land interaction here happens as we go on throughout this week. And here's the 500 millibar. Again, there's what I was talking about, that big ridge for early next week over the much of the eastern part of the United States. Our wave coming through down here in the Caribbean. So there's the classic ridge over troubled water look. I don't think this wave will be strong enough to get the influence from this trough over the North Atlantic. I think it will bypass that, as it would be steered by the lower level winds or trade winds that will be going on in here, which will be coming out of the east and pushing this kind of a system, mainly, most likely, weak at this point, pushing it due west. So I do think it could get into this area, probably west of 60, 65 west by the middle part of next week. But again, there's that ridge over the northeastern part of the United States, and here's that anticyclonic zone setting up down here in the Caribbean by next Monday. Here we are, Thursday, day 10. Again, the ensemble spread stronger north and east, weaker for the most part off to the south and west. So there's obviously quite a range here being at 10 days, but overall, Southwest Atlantic should be getting a lot of people's eyes at this point. Here's the 500 millibar pattern. The ridge begins to take off. There's going to be some troughing that comes in over the northern part of the U.S. The system is somewhere in here, so certainly it's got that nice blocking look to it. So this could certainly be a threat to the United States down the road. And then finally here on day 10, the 200 millibar pattern, you can clearly nicely see the anticyclonic flow continues over this area going down the road. Now here's the European ensembles for their tracks through day 10. You can see basically what you saw there in the time steps in the I think I did them every 2-3 days, but here's a 10-day swath. The weaker further south and west, the stronger to the north and east. And you can see there's quite some strong members in there. I got a 952 that sticks out noticeably there. So certainly this has the potential to be quite a system in 8 to 10 days. And again, you saw the European with a relatively weak 1,003 millibar low in the Bahamas, which again, if I think that happens, it could very be much stronger than 1,003, knowing that the global models have a hard time picking up on tropical cyclone rapid intensification processes given the model's grid resolution. So there's the European. The GFS ensemble at 12Z is a little bit more impressive. I haven't seen this yet myself, so this is the first time I am looking at this, but you can see the GFS ensemble quite strong as well for the most part, avoiding the hillier terrain of the islands down here, the Cuba and Dominican and Haiti. So if this avoids some of the higher terrain, this could certainly be a plausible outcome. But again, you can see stronger members north and east, weaker ones on the further south and west side of the track guidance envelope. So here's the European. This is from today. This is not off its weeklies. We'll show the weeklies here as well. This is just its 12Z run today. The tropical cyclone probabilities are 20 to 30% in the Bahamas by day 10. Hour 288 as the model begins to diverge on where the stain's going to be, but it's going to be somewhere in the southwest Atlantic. And then here, the hurricane probabilities at hour 288, you can see the 5 to 10% probabilities of hurricane showing up quite nicely. Now, here are the weeklies that came in earlier. You can see this front running wave now. This was Earl. So here we are by the next Monday. And then the week after, and it's somewhere again in the southwest Atlantic and the widespread. And finally here, as we go out towards week 3, you can see it's somewhere around here within the models, if not subsequent waves or other subsequent development down the road. But that's a pretty interesting look off the Carolinas, a 20 to 30% chance of a tropical storm being nearby. So we'll see how that works out. But definitely one to keep an eye on. I think this is going to get named 96L over the next coming days. And certainly, I do believe that this has potential to be a threat to the United States, something we haven't seen of a lot this year. So we'll see what happens as the week goes on. That's it for now, and thank you for watching.